as we move towards the 11th election of Zimbabwe, what we want from the public officials that will be putting into office come the 30th of July. With me here are my colleagues, Winnet Shambiarira, representing Just Associates, as well as Gladys, representing Young Women's Institute for Development, who would share on our position with regards to the ongoing attacks on women and the structural violence and systematic violence that women have been experiencing. So this press conference is organized for us to really have a clear position that we use to hold whoever it is that we are going to vote into office come Monday the 30th with regards to what we want to see as the women of Zimbabwe. So I will start off with Gladys to share, and then we'll move on to Winnet.
Thank you, Precious, for the introduction. I will go straight into our presser, like she indicated, which has been organized by a campaign called the Shevolution, which is basically women's rights activists, feminists, and women's groups coming together to speak against, increased sexism that we've experienced thus far since the preparations to the 30th poll. Zimbabweans go to the polls on 30 July 2018. As we head towards the 11th election after the country's independence, it is apparent that women continue to be treated as second-class citizens. As women's rights activists and organizations, we have witnessed increased violence targeted at women in the run-up to this election. We have noted that despite women being in the majority of the over 5 million registered voters in the country, despite commitments made by political parties to meet the constitutional gender quota system in their respective parties, despite all the political parties having committed to a national peace pledge, the situation on the ground and information well documented by women's rights organizations and available in various media points to disenfranchisement of female voters, candidates, and any woman engaged in the electoral process. The underrepresentation of women among candidates running for parliamentary and local government posts, which statistics indicate that it's all less than 20%, is testimony to the violation happening to women. And this is indeed worrisome to us. Central to this wholesome downward trend in women's political participation is the structural and systematic sexism and misogyny that continue to impede women's enjoyment of civil and political rights. Undoubtedly, the opening up of the public sphere through the widespread use of the internet in the country has also brought with it an upsurge in the violation of women's rights to free expression, liberty, security, privacy, and equal treatment under the law. Throughout this pre-election environment, we have witnessed an upsurge in highly sexualized violence against women in public office, violence against women who are running for the election as candidates, and also those seeking to exercise their democratic rights to public space and the public sphere. Clearly, women have been called names which are aimed at derogating and dehumanizing them in the public space. The following are examples that we have of incidences that have demonstrated the ongoing attacks that we have all come across during the pre-election environment. We have been accused of having earned high-ranking public offices through combinations of benevolence and romantic liaisons. Many have to date earned labels such as Hure in Shona, Isifebe in Ndebele, Ho or prostitute in English, and also being called women of loose morals. We have also seen alleged sexual relationships of women being brought out into the media. And we have seen that there are demands for women to resign based on their alleged sexual and private relationships. We have also seen the pledging of women and girls over political debates. We have seen women being questioned about the paternity of their children and threats to disclose some of the unknown paternity in the media. We have also seen relegation of women to domestic and charity roles only. This trend is the same even for the most ordinary Zimbabwean woman who exercises her economic right to work, who decides to go to school, who dares to speak up openly against patriarchal opinion, who decides how she wants to dress, who turns down sexual advances or leaves a relationship, a marriage, who opens up on her sexuality, among other personal choices. Such attempts to label, shame, intimidate, degrade, belittle, and or silence women by making reference to their bodies, past and present sexual relationships, and their looks is totally unacceptable and cannot be tolerated. Today, we appropriate the term hure, isifebe, as a part of our own feminist strategy that acknowledges that women who are powerful, competent, responsible, and effective citizens and leaders of this country are indeed those who earn these titles. We shall no longer be deterred by terms that seek to discredit and divide us based on morality while seeking to entrench patriarchy in our society. At a time when the rest of the world is pushing for progressive, gender-sensitive, and inclusive policy and development. But we would rather embrace them in the spirit of recognizing and celebrating women who dare. Women have rights as well as the right to multiple forms of autonomy, including bodily autonomy. Our private lives must remain as such, private lives, and this includes sexuality and sexual preferences. Our performance in public office must be based on our levels of professionalism and ability to meet key result areas, and should never be reduced to our bodies, to our sexual preferences, and our personal choices that happen in our private spheres. As we make this position out there quite clearly, we are going to make sure that it will not end with just pushing out this position, but to actually follow through post the election. And hence we have two concrete accountability mechanisms that we're going to talk about today. The first one is the Zimbabwe Feminist Manifesto that we are going to share immediately. And the second one will be the Red Card campaign.